Hi guys, and welcome to my first video on this channel. I'm planning on making a Victorian Polonaise using truly Victorian's pattern from the 1870s-ish, the early Bustle era. I am basing it off of a dress that I found. I don't remember the name of the collection, but it's one of those big like historical clothing collections, and I'll probably put a picture up here or over here or whatever. It's like a floral pattern Polonaise with these stripes and a dark purple skirt. I'm going to be doing a dark burgundy skirt because I couldn't find dark purple. And the striped floral fabric that I found, I'm a little afraid it looks kind of too modern, but I think it turned out really good in the end. So yeah, thanks for clicking on this video, and here's the footage of me making it. Okay, so day one of making this Polonaise, and I took my measurements, or actually I had a friend help me take the measurements because... Focus, camera, focus. I know you can do it. No, don't do that. Anyway, I had a friend take my measurements because I needed like my back width and stuff like that, and that's kind of hard to take yourself. And I got, as you can see in the bottom, I did all the math, and my side back and side need to be M, and my front and sleeve need to be L. So that's according to this size chart. There's like some very light math you have to do to figure out the sizing for this pattern, because they have like this system that they devise themselves where you like subtract your back measurement from your bust measurement, and then you figure out the different size pattern pieces based on that. So that's why I have M for one set of patterns and L for the other. So I got all the pieces cut out for my mock-up, and I'll start sewing that together. I'm not going to go over the process of that very much because I'll be going over the process of making the final one more when I have more of an idea what I'm doing. Here's a sleepy kitty. Isn't she cute? Okay, anyway. So I flatlined all the pieces that need to be flatlined. And they're all in this pile because why wouldn't I put them all in a pile? And they're on my bed because this is the only place I can film right now. But as you can see, the main pieces are flatlined. So the pieces that need to be flatlined are the side front, which is attached to the front, but it ends up being separate pieces because you only need to flatline from like a couple inches below the waist. So yeah, it ends up being separate pieces for those two, even though they're connected. And then the side back and back. Here's one of the side back pieces. As you can see, I cut off my stitching right below, a few inches below the waistline. And also, I made sure that the selvage was at the bottom of these pieces so that I didn't have to finish the bottom edge. Now, I've also zigzagged around in order to flatline. Instead of just doing a straight stitch, I did a zigzag. I don't know if you can see, just to finish the edges. I know it's not historically accurate, but they hand overcasted edges in the Victorian era, so I'm just taking that as an excuse to not care and just zigzag the edges. Okay, so on with the next step. I added facing to the back of the side back pieces and the back pieces, and then I added trim. I need to tack this down right here, but I added trim around the edges. I was going to add piping because I thought that would look good, but I don't see any historical examples of adding piping on the basque. I'm not sure if that's actually the case or if I'm just like bad at looking for things. But oh well, it'll look cute with just lace too. So this is the back, and then this is the front. I hand sewed the lace on because I didn't want visible top stitching. And yeah, so I will see you at the next step. I just finished sewing the side back seams and I pressed them open, and then the next step is you've got to press these into pleats like this, and so I did that already, and then you're going to hand tack them down at the top, and then after that I have to measure a piece of twill tape that goes across the waist in like full length. And we're not sewing down the twill tape yet, it's used for the next step, but I thought I would mention it because I probably won't do it on camera. I'm not sure how it would, but I'll definitely show you after I tack down this pleat. So I just hand tacked this down, and then I'm reading the instructions, and it's like you're supposed to pleat it towards the center back, not away from the center back. But you know what? I'm unique. I'm a special butterfly in this snowflakey world, and mine's gonna point away from the center back. Eat. Okay, so now I have done the lower back pleating the sides, so that was pretty easy. The instructions tell you exactly what to do, and there are markings on the pattern pieces to tell you where to pleat, and I wrote through them in pencil because I'm a bad seamstress. Anyway, so you want to make sure that the pleats are facing downward on the right side of the fabric, so you'll end up with like pockets at the bottom, if that makes sense, like you can stick a finger in the bottom, and there's a pleat. So next step, I'm supposed to pleat the top edge to fit the twill tape that I already cut, which is over here. I'm supposed to pleat this to fit that twill tape with a 1/2 inch being flat on either end. So the method that I use for that is called the divide and conquer method, and because I'm really bad at math, but basically you take the half point of what you're trying to pleat it to and what you're pleating with, and you pin those together, and then you do it again and again and again until you end up with the number of pleats that you're looking for. I don't know if I'll be able to film it because it's something that I'm going to be doing in bed and not at the sewing machine. So I'll come back when I've done the pleats and then try and explain it a little better. Hopefully it'll help someone. Okay, I'm gonna try and explain this, but it might be a little weird. If it doesn't make sense, I'll hopefully have some drawings on the screen or something that'll help illustrate my point. But so what you do, this is half, I made this pin mark half of the twill tape, and then this pin marks the halfway point of the fabric, and then you bring these two pins together and pin it there. And then you end up with a loop, then you end up with like a loop on either side of like the excess material, and then you just keep doing this over and over again. So I'll take the halfway point of the twill tape again between the midpoint that I already made and the pin on the side, and then I will make a pin there and then do the same thing on the fabric and then bring those together, and then I'll just keep doing that until I get pleats as small as I want. I'm not sure how many pleats I'll do because the pattern doesn't say, but I'll let you know when I get there. Now this is pin hell, but you can see that I've got all of it pleated. I used box pleats. It didn't say if you needed to use knife or box pleats. I think you could assume you could use knife pleats, but I think box pleats just look a little snazzier, even though no one's gonna see this. So yeah, I need to baste the top, which I'll do on my machine really quick, and then we'll hand tack it to the waistline of the back and side back pieces that we just worked on before. So I'll come back to you after this is basted. Okay, here it is all basted, and here it is on the other side. You can see the seam line. I did about 1/4 inch down. I think I could have gotten away with 1/2 inch because it's going to be hidden under the basque anyway. But next up, I'm pinning it to the waistline right here. and then hand tacking it down to just the interlining so that it doesn't show on the outside. And obviously you want the right side of this fabric to be facing out. So I will come back once I have done that. Okie dokie, got the bottom back, I forgot what it's called, lower back, something like that, piece basted on to the waistline. You can kind of tell, even though you can't see the stitches, except maybe in a couple places I might have poked through, but you mostly can't see it. And then makes more sense on the inside. Here's the inside, so you can see I just hand whipped the top of this tape to the waistline. And then also the next step was to baste the lower sides right here together, and so I did that as well. So yeah, that concludes, I think, step 4. So now on to step 5. I got the darts put in. Okay, so this one is a weird dart where it's like you have these two separate pieces, the front and side front, and then when you cut them out, the bottom section is all together, as you can see. So you line them up right next to each other down here, and then up here is like a weird, like, it splits apart, so you sew it like a dart, even though it's kind of a seam, and like you taper to a point at the end. So I did that first, and then I put in the darts. I was pretty on target with these. For once, I'm not very good at putting in darts. I'll be the first to admit it. But I did it on both sides. I only have this one laid out though, so I'm just talking about this one. And it wasn't very hard. Just gotta mark them and sew them. And then finally, I attached the fronts to the backs at the shoulders. That's what the pattern says to do. And yeah, you got to make sure you put them on the right side so you're not like sewing them on backwards. And in the middle there, I ran out of bobbin thread and I was very angry because I just sewn a seam and then like it was nothing. But oh well, things happen. Anyway, next up is the front facing. Okay, so I did quite a few steps all at once without recording anything. Well, I recorded me sewing them, but I didn't record me talking about them, so here I'm going to talk about them. First, I did the facing. So you sew a facing all the way around the neck. You can see it poking out up here. All the way around the neck and then down the front. And it's one big piece. And then I added piping as I did that, around the neckline. So that was step D, under 5. And then next on step 6, or no, okay, it's kind of confusing. The D is the front facing. C is hemming the front, which I did by hand. I don't know if you can see my tiny whip stitches. And then I trimmed it as well. That was all step C. And then step D was folding the pleats into the sides of the front. So right here, you can kind of see there are these pleats. And then basting them in place. And then finally, on to step 6, which is I sewed the side seams together. So now it's just one big piece. You can see the armhole right here. And then next, what I need to do is hem the backs, the lower back. So this right here needs to be hemmed. I have some selvage there. It says a very small hem, so I'm thinking 1/2 inch or so. Folded under twice, so it's 1/4 inch in the end. And yeah, I think that's the last step before I need to add the boning, which is going to be its own kind of adventure. So I'll see you after I finish hemming the lower back and adding the trim to it. So what I just did was I hemmed the lower back, I added piping, and then I added some lace. You saw me machine stitching the piping on, and then I hand tacked the lace onto the lower back. And of course around the front as well. So here's where the front starts. And then the lace goes all the way to the upper edge, the corner here. I was gonna have it going up this way, toward the center too, but I ran out of lace. So it's just gonna be around the bottom, and I think it still looks really nice, so I'm not mad. Next up, I gotta, I already cut the bones, they're over there. I just need to put them in some casings and then stitch them to the bodice. And then after that, all that's left is putting in the sleeves. And I say all that's left, but it's like a whole, process in and of itself, so we'll see how that goes. As you can see, the bodice is now boned on this side. I would show you the other side, but I'm lazy. Next is sewing in the sleeves. Of course, my camera battery died as I was putting in the sleeves, and I didn't notice until after I had already done both of them. So I'm sorry, but there's no footage of me struggling to put in the sleeves. But I managed to do it eventually. You can see there's piping around the armhole. I got them in. So what is left is a bunch of hand sewing stuff, which I still haven't figured out a good way to film yet, so you might not see much of it. I'll try and update you as I get them done though. So I need to fold this pleat in the arm and then overcast the top so that it doesn't fray, and then tack a bow on either sleeve. Then I need to do buttons and buttonholes down the front so that it closes. That's always good. And I need to put lace around the neckline. And then finally, the last thing is the bustle in the back. It's pleated up on the sides, but you need to put in tapes to properly bustle it in the back. So I need to put those tapes in. And I think that's everything. So yeah, this project is almost done. Oh, there needs to be a lace at the bottom of the sleeves too. I decided against piping there because, well, I was running out of piping for one. And for two, I think it'll look a little nicer and it'll be more cohesive with the back of the bodice that doesn't have any piping. So yeah. But yeah, this project is getting really close to being done and I am excited. I'll be back once I've finished some of the hand sewing stuff. Alright, it is done. Here it is hanging on the only place that I can hang things in my room, on these weird cabinet things. So I did the lace around the neckline, and then I tacked this facing down because it kept flipping up and looking awful. And then I did buttons and buttonholes. These are actually hand-done buttonholes. You can see my terrible stitching in there. And I only screwed up on one of them, so, and you can kind of tell it's this one. Like, it looks terrible. But yeah, they weren't too bad. And then on the backs to cover up that pleat, I can't even show you how hideous the pleat was before. I covered it up with these ribbon bows that matches the skirt fabric. And then I did lace around the cuffs. So if I zoom out, you can see those are the cuffs. And then the last thing I did was bustle up the back, which I'll have to flip this around so you can see. Oh, I stuck another bow here. That would be cute. But yeah, I bustled up the back. And the way you do this is with like some ribbon, and you just sew it in specific places that are marked on the pattern, which, by the way, I totally forgot to mark before I did the sewing bit, so that was an adventure, but I think it turned out looking pretty good. Here, I'll try and show you the inside of the bustled part so you can know what's going on there. See, there are all these ribbons. The ones that are going vertically are the ones that are holding up the bustle, and then the ones that go horizontally are just to hold the skirt to the back, so it looks nice and plump in the back like it should in the bustle era. So yeah, those are all my finishing touches that I did. Next up, hopefully I'll have some worn footage to finish off this video, and then an outro. So see you soon.